all of a sudden you start to realize, well, what's different about today now that I met this person versus yesterday? And the answer is, today, all of a sudden, I'm actually operating from consciousness. I'm not letting the subconscious run the program.
So I believe it's time to re-examine what do we really need. And not everybody needs the traditional relationship, because that's a social construct. In the world we live in today, everything has to be re-examined. Everything has to be a renewal. And I'm not going to do something because my family did it. That was good for them in their time. It is not my life now. And there are a lot of people who are staying single because they choose to be single and looking for quality relationships when they choose that. But that runs right up against the myth that our belief system is more significant at the social level than it is at the personal level. And I'm not willing to allow anyone in any institution to tell me that my life doesn't work when I realize it does. Now, I could make that life work. I could give everything up and be just like anyone else in any other relationship. But I would start to think how much negativity has been caused, how many people suffered because I didn't honor who I am. So if I'm only one person in a million who is willing to take the approach I'm willing to take, that's me. And I want people to do what honors them. And other people, the relationship is their life, especially adaptive supportives. It's the most important thing they have. But I'm not going to judge them, and they shouldn't judge me or other people. We have to understand, part of our anger comes from adapting to situations we feel trapped in or we feel compromised by, but because of social norms or because of family pressure, we stick with it. So the good news is that 80% of the people who were ever in my life as friends are still there. And not only there, but they're as close as they've ever been. But that's what can happen when we give people an opportunity to be who they are, instead of making everything so exclusive that our time, our body, our mind is owned by another person. And I find that so extreme. And yet that will challenge many of the family values. But how about honor, decency, ethics? How about morality? How about the spirit? Those I share.
We all are attracted to people who are the opposite style of what we are. For example, a feeling people will gravitate toward people who think more. Not that everybody doesn't do both, but someone who relates to the world primarily through feelings will look for somebody who's a thinker. Someone who relates to the world primarily through outer sensations will be attracted to somebody who's more of an intuitive type, that is sort of dazed and not so much in and of the world. And you always get attracted to that opposite type because it sort of completes you as a whole person. Then you end up getting frustrated with that type because that type of person doesn't perceive the world like you do. So you're both attracted to it, but then you're repelled by it. That's probably behind a lot of human discord. We're attracted to our opposite, and then we can't understand anybody that thinks or feels any differently than we do.
I believe that it's very important that we seek energy that matches our own. I find so much joy and happiness being with people that is effortless to share. Now, each person's different, but we share something in common. They could have a different politic, they could have a different religion, they could have a different diet, but that's not what I'm sharing with people. I'm not having a relationship to share their religion or their diet or their politic. I'm sharing them, their life force. And when we align ourselves with other people who are at our level, you must know what your level is, on all other bases, that creates a wonderful synergy. And then we look forward to being around people. We look forward to sharing things because we're on the right path. And that means that there's no reason to be angry. At the end of the day, it's all about perception. When I change my perception about why I would be angry, I can change the perception to choose. I can learn a lesson from something I may not like, but not engage anger with anger. I will gain constructive help with something that is out of balance. So my effort to rebalance something, whether I succeed or not, is not the issue. The key is Stop looking at whether or not you have achieved what you were setting out to do. Instead, look at the authentic effort that you put into it and the dynamic of doing the best you can, because very little in life ultimately gives us the total outcome in all ways that we expect or want or need. But just the fact that you honored an issue by addressing it means that now you feel that energy is dissipated. There's a calm and a positive, even a healing energy when you do your best.
If we want to change our lives, then we really have to undo the kind of initial programming that really disempowered us and limited us and really provided us with self-sabotaging behaviors. Not because we want these behaviors, but because these programs were put into us, and more or less we become victims of the program. But this classification of victims only lasts until you identify the fact that you can reprogram the biology, because upon doing so, then you can rewrite the disempowering beliefs that we acquired in our development.
If you recognize that you have this anger, there are different techniques that can be used. For instance, say you're with someone and they're very angry, and this is a very clear way to recognize this overt anger. They're angry with you, you're getting angry back in return. You're getting angry because you're thinking, I'm right, he's wrong. Or you're getting angry because you're thinking, oh my God, this person wants to hurt me. I'm in danger of some kind. If you immediately, you can take charge of how you perceive the situation and what you say to yourself, your anger will diminish. First of all, if you say, okay, I'll let him be right in this instance. I don't have to be right every single moment. It's more important to get rid of this anger than to be right, to be in this power struggle. I have time enough to be right tomorrow. You put it in a larger perspective. You can allow that person to be right, and then you can look at the person and say, this anger from him or her is a form of suffering.
Someone says, well, gee, Gary, there's, so many sick people. You're only saying, 6 or 10 a day. What good's that? And I say, well, it's good for the 6 people I see. I don't look at the 600,000 or 6 million or 60 million that I don't see. I focus upon what is positive, what I can do. And I don't feel frustrated by what I cannot do. I'm just a human being. We're all just human beings. And yet we've been expected to be like supermen and women, multitasking, doing everything. And one day, the multitaskers are always right at the cusp of anger and rage, because the more balls they're in the air, the more are going to fall. And then they look to who to blame for this ball falling. And they start projecting blame, and then they start feeling overwhelmed by a life that they thought they had some control over. And they realize for every new task you take, you diminish the capacity to finish or manage the task that you had at hand. But we're considered good people the more things we do. Maybe considered that, but then again, that's one of those artificial social constructs of the super person who can do everything. And you show me someone who can do everything, and I'll show you someone who didn't do it well and leaves gaping holes. When it comes to our children, that's a big hole. The children didn't deserve that. When it comes to our career, our hobbies, our personal life, when it comes to our body, our mind, and when was the last time the average person had time, quality time, they could meditate, quality time they could have a hobby, quality time they could actually be unrushed in a meal, or enjoy going for a walk, or doing things with the people they love, or quality time with their pet? And the answer is, we don't. Because we're doing so much, so fast, under such pressure, we've made our lives unbearably complicated. And we should never confuse the complexity of an issue with the simplicity of its solution. Let's make our life simple again. Let's get in balance. Let's get focused on our path. Let's honor ourselves, and let's project an energy out to others that comes from love, not hate, not fear, not loathing, because those are biases. And with that, you change your perception of yourself in the world. And when you change your perception, you change your reality. Thank you very much for watching.